So here's where Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. Now, the context of him saying this is very important for you to get the full understanding of what he's saying here, the full impact. Jesus makes this statement in John chapter 10 in the temple in Jerusalem. He makes the statement to the religious leaders, the shepherds of Israel, and he makes this statement during the celebration of the Feast of Dedication. We're told down in verse 22. It's the Feast of Dedication, or Hanukkah is what we commonly call it today. Now, the Feast of Dedication celebrated when the Jews rededicated their temple after it was defiled by the Syrian leader Antiochus Epiphanes, 167 BC, so about 160 years before Jesus Christ was born. The temple was defiled by the Syrians, Antiochus Epiphanes. The Syrians came in and they actually set up idols in the temple, and they offered a pig on the altar as a sacrifice, defiling the temple of God. And here's the thing. All the Jewish priests at that time went along with it. All those shepherds over the flock of God, all the religious leaders, they all went along with setting up idols in the temple of God and sacrificing pigs on the altar, all except one priest. There was one guy who stood up against it named Matthias. But all the other priests, they allowed this to come into the house of God, this idolatry. They allowed this defilement to come into the house of God, and they agreed with it, and they went along with it. The Feast of Dedication, or Hanukkah, commemorates when the temple was cleansed and rededicated to the Lord. That's the context here. Jesus was in Jerusalem for the Feast of Dedication when he declares to the religious leaders, I'm the good shepherd. And he talks to them about being a hireling. Now, here's the thing. Give me your attention. I promise I'm almost done. During the Feast of Dedication, during the time of Hanukkah, you know what passage they read in the temple and in the synagogues during the Feast of Dedication? Ezekiel 34, which is all about the failure of the shepherds over Israel. And they would read Ezekiel 34 during the Feast of Dedication. In particular, the priests would read Ezekiel 34 and lament over the failure of the shepherds in the past to protect the people of Israel and to shepherd the people of Israel in the past. And so when Jesus said to them and said of himself, I'm the good shepherd, he wasn't just pulling that out of the blue. He was pointing those religious leaders back to Ezekiel 34, the same chapter they've been reading during this feast. And he was saying, I'm the good shepherd that's promised in Ezekiel 34. I said in Ezekiel 34 that I myself would come and shepherd my sheep. And I'm here. And you have failed to shepherd Israel. And so I've come to shepherd my people. I'm the good shepherd. Jesus is the good shepherd, isn't he? You've experienced that. You've experienced the goodness of the Lord. And you've experienced how he cares for us and how he feeds us and how he provides for us and how he leads us and how he guides us. So now, turn back to Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9. So when Jesus looks at the multitude, he says, they're weary and scattered, like sheep having no shepherd. He's talking about those religious leaders. They don't have a shepherd. And then he said to his disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers in his harvest. Now, at harvest time, the harvest must be brought in quickly. It must be brought in a short amount of time. There's a sense of urgency so that the crop would not be lost. So at harvest time, farmers would hire extra laborers to bring in the harvest because the time was short. I would say the time is short for us, the days that we're living in. I believe that we're living in the last days, and I believe that Christ could come for his church at any moment. Jesus said the signs of his return would include wars and rumors of wars. He said it would include pestilence or plagues, things like global pandemics. He said the signs of his return would be like labor pains, meaning they will become more frequent and more intense the closer we get to his return. That's certainly been true. So I believe the time could be short for us, so we should have a sense of urgency regarding sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ with people and telling people about Jesus. The harvest truly is plentiful. There's a harvest of people out there who need Jesus Christ. I think many people right now are very anxious about the state of the world and are looking for answers and looking for hope. And they realize that there's no hope in this world. There's no hope in man. There's no hope in the institutions of man. Jesus is the hope of the world. And Jesus is the only hope of the world. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. So look at verse 38. Jesus says, so pray. What do? We pray. What should we pray? Pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. Pray that God would send out laborers into the field to bring in the harvest. And you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen as you pray that the Lord will send out laborers into his field to bring people in to the kingdom? You know what he's going to say? Okay, how about you go? Now don't let that scare you away from praying. Oh, if he's going to send me, I'm not going to pray. No, as you pray about the lost world out there and the state of things in this world, as you pray, God will give you a burden for the lost. God will put on your heart a desire to do something about it and to go out into the field and share Jesus Christ with a lost and dying world and be part of bringing in the harvest for God.